Hello and welcome to Lockdown Beers and Rugby Chat here on New Zealand Sport Radio, helping you get through lockdown. As we're coming to the end of it for most of, coming to the end of the hard bit for most of New Zealand, heading off to level 2 at the end of tonight, except for Auckland. And a man who is stuck in Auckland is just joining me now. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Paul. Always a privilege and a pleasure to be on the show.
And that's Stephen Harris, folks, for those of you listening to the podcast. Yep, you can catch us on the podcast as well as watching us live at 5 p.m. every day on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. Look at that. He's cracking into the drink already. 50 seconds to go, Stephen. You can't drink yet. Deary me. Oh, dear. Even if it is water. Anyway, what have we got? We've got some news about the NPC returning, Bunnings NPC. We've got a couple of signings of Super Rugby coaches as well. Look, I've got my note board now. Because we'll also have the Driving Wall show this evening. We'll talk about the Bledisloe Cup, the Rugby Championship, probably some Rugby World Cup qualification as well in that one. I know Boa's joining me at 8 p.m. for that. 20 seconds till I open my can of beer. So hope you're keeping well, Stephen, and that's all been good.
Yeah, they're not too bad. Busy sort of day. Knocked out a couple of courses today, which were quite interesting, especially when your 4G starts to fail. But there you go.
And it's 5 o'clock, so beer o'clock. There goes the TUI. No, we're not sponsored, by the way. If TUI would like to sponsor us, more than happy to accept a few free beers. And there we go. Leave the gas in the glass. They might complain about how I pour my beer, but hey, each to their own, folks. Be kind. Be kind. Don't get on at me just because I poured my beer differently. We're all different, you know. It takes different strokes. So quiet day for me. Went for like a 5k walk today. So that's my new training regime. Stephen, you've been out on the bike quite a bit during lockdown. Did you get out on the bike today?
No, not today. It was a dark old day, and like I say, I was a bit tied up with a couple of courses this afternoon, so I decided to stay in, and hopefully we get some better weather for tomorrow. Although I think the weather forecast is not the best for the next couple of days.
Yeah, I got out early and luckily dodged the rain. Nocturnal Right says, howdy all, some domestic rugby, yeah. Yes, a little while to domestic rugby, not straight away, but with the return to level 2, that means that teams can start training tomorrow. And that means we're looking at the resumption of the domestic rugby on the 17th of September, so a week on Friday, folks. We did think that it was going to be 2 weeks, but it looks like it's going to be a week only. So that's good to see, which means they'll have missed 4 weeks worth of rounds, which if they move the finals towards late November means that they can catch up those 4 rounds without the non-Auckland sides having to play midweek games. So they won't need to necessarily do that. They might need to obviously to catch up games because Auckland, Counties Manukau and North Harbour are all still at level 4. So they will be looking at trying to catch up games later. They said that they're looking at releasing the schedule soon, but it looks like next Sunday we will have Waikato versus Canterbury. And I'm hoping to find, apparently they're meeting tomorrow to start the logistics around that one. And hopefully I'll be able to get to that game and still bring you our normal coverage of the rugby. So that's on Sunday, the 19th of September. So hopefully we'll be able to be at that one. Stephen, I've had someone on Facebook, and I should give the person credit. Complained, said that it was wrong and that they shouldn't start without having all 10 teams starting at the same time. 14 teams starting at the same time. Sorry. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. I guess in a perfect world, it'd be nice if those 2 teams can start at the same time or get relocated. Listen, there's no right or wrong answer. You know, if you probably delay it any longer, it just makes it even more awkward towards the back end of the season.
Yeah, it was Michael Fuller on Facebook, by the way. So thank you for engaging, Michael. Simon also got in there, and he was hoping to that he'll be able to get up to Auckland and see some games at some point, which would be good. Personally, look, whilst Auckland is only in level 4, well, confirmed level 4 now for another 7 days, we don't know what's going to happen in those next 7 days and what the result will be from that. If it looks like things heading in the right direction, and well done, Auckland people, for behaving and following the lockdown rules and sending things in the right way. But we could see Auckland at level 3 for the rest of the year, or level 4 even. We don't know that it will necessarily come down to level 2. And if you held back the other 11 teams in the NPC, 10 teams in the Farah Palmer Cup, then you would then they potentially wouldn't have any rugby at all. So I think it's the right thing that you have to do this. It's not ideal. It's not perfect. Yes, it's going to be harder for those 3 teams. A, they've had more time away from training, and B, they'll have to play more games in a short amount of time. But to me, I think yes, it's not a great situation, but I think it's the right thing to do personally.
Yeah, and we probably all know these unions and broadcasters I would imagine have had a bit of a say in this as well, Paul. If they're going to pay rugby money, they want to return an investment, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's the other side of it. Is if they didn't play those games, they'd have to give money back to Sky, and these provinces cannot afford that. So they need to play their games. Sure, under level 2, they're not going to have they're not going to have crowds, but I think it does happen. It does need to go ahead. The Rob Bull says maybe it will become a competition with no official national champion. Oh, that happened in a Major League Rugby last year, where they couldn't complete it. But this year, I don't know. I still think you can have a champion, even if there is an asterisk next to them. A bit like the basketball, they called it the showdown last year rather than actually the proper competition, because it was a different setup, and so that's the people who won last year aren't kind of champions in the record books for the national championship, but obviously they won that tournament. So maybe there's a way of doing it like that. I don't know, but I do think we need a final, and I think Sky will want a final. So they've paid for it, so they want to see it.
Yep.
So yes, so that's those ones that are coming up. I mean, it does severely restrict the provinces that I can get to. Obviously, if 3 of my 6 provinces I go to are in lockdown, but we'll still try to get to as many games as we can, folks. Brad Thorne has re-signed for the Reds for 2 years.
Yep.
Taking him out to 6 years. A good move for the Reds, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've seen incremental improvement from the Reds in the last few seasons or so, and I think he's quite well respected because he's a bit of a tough rooster, as proven with a couple of players that went overseas. Isaac Rodder, one of those particular names, and he pretty much showed him the door, and he didn't exactly open the door when Rodder came back to Australia either. Paul didn't invite him back in, so. Listen, I think he's done some good things with the Reds. Let's not forget they were the Australian Super Rugby champions 2021. So yeah, I think it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's the right job. It's the entire coaching staff have all been extended for 2 years. I think it's good to see. He was apparently holding out until he knew what was happening next year. Now that Super Rugby Pacific is in place, he is going to stick around for that one. And I think one of the things that they had been, targeting for a number of years was winning that Super Rugby AU and becoming the top side there. And I think once they achieved that, they just felt it was difficult for them to get back up again for the next tournament. Whilst he's saying, it was a wake-up call as to the gap between the teams, I don't think the gap was as big as made out for the Reds or for the Brumbies for that matter. I just think that the Reds were basically hungover emotionally from that final, and therefore, just couldn't get themselves up for those games. So I think, I think we'll see a better go from them in 2022 for that one.
Yeah, and it was a tough ask for them to front up a week later, and I think the way that particular competition was structured in terms of Trans-Tasman Super Rugby, I think if you didn't either weren't picking up 5 points, or if you had one loss, pretty much you were done and dusted, Paul.
Yeah, I think the schedule was particularly bad for the Reds and the Brumbies. Brumbies had 3 games on the bounce in New Zealand with Crusaders, Chiefs, Blues from memory to start off the competition with. And the Reds, again, also had to travel over to New Zealand for their opening game, or for travel away at least, for their opening game. So, yeah, I think they got the schedule entirely wrong last year. But there you go. It is what it is. It's in the past now, and we can't change it. But, so I think, good move for them. Also, Leon McDonald has been re-signed with his coaching staff, minus Tana Amanga, who we already know has left to follow family business things instead. And so he's also signed for another 2 years. Inside our live chat, I mean, some of the Blues fans or over there, I mean, Aaron, and I think was positive about this, saying, look, he's making things go in the right direction for that one. But you think the jury's still out on Leon?
I actually do, Paul, and whilst I know there'll be a few people a bit surprised about that, listen, I think the Blues forwards have gone very, very well. They've just come a long way in the last couple of seasons under Tom Coventry. We're to the stage where they're probably, once upon a time, they'd get beaten up on most occasions by New Zealand teams. But I actually thought they pretty much bossed their way through to a title, picking up Trans-Tasman Super Rugby, that much sought after Trans-Tasman Super Rugby trophy, Paul. But if you look at maybe their backline play at times, I thought it was really abysmal at times, especially, what I was looking for a team with such dominance up front. I was looking for really good set-piece moves off the line out, off scrum, but we very rarely saw it. Really, it was a case of, on a lot of occasions, they'd use their big forwards to bully teams over the advantage line, and just practically teams would just, because they're a big pack, would run out of numbers. And it was just a case of moving the ball a little bit wider, and they touched down. Like, listen, I get that. You're going to do that, but all of a sudden you're going to come up against a really, really good pack that's going to look you in the eye. And then if you haven't got a game plan or a plan B in and around attack moves, I think that's where you're going to get found out. So for me, I think this is the perfect opportunity with maybe Tana Umaga moving on, or he's going to be tied up with his wife. I think her name is Rochelle. They're going to be tied up together with their business. I think it's a perfect opportunity to bring in a little bit of IQ into this Blues organisation. And, it's just a matter of looking around. Somebody irate, and I'm going to throw a name out there, is Jason O'Halloran. Listen, he was assistant coach to Dave Rennie. Well, crikey, probably well over a decade ago, maybe even longer than that, maybe 15 years ago, when they were at Manawatu at the Turbos. And my recollection of his time there as the assistant coach was just these really intricate backline moves or backline plays that the Turbos would utilise, and they'd come up with some tremendous tries. And I think he may have ended up over in maybe part of the Scottish setup for a while as well. So he's got international experience, and I do believe he's got a bit of X factor.
Yeah, so after Manawatu, headed over to Scotland as assistant coach at international, then went to Glasgow Warriors for 3 or 4 years, and then to Suntory Songoliath over in Japan at the moment, whereas he's assistant there to Milton Haig, who is the head coach over there at the moment. Look, he's obviously another Kiwi coach who was involved in Georgia, etc. So, yeah, no, interesting choice. We're not sure whether they'll be able to pry him away from Songoliath. We'll have to see what happens with that one and how they replace Tana Amanga. But it looks like they're looking at a defensive coach. Well, that's what Tana was doing, and yet it's the attack that we think they need some more IQ around. So Maybe trying to move one of their guys internally and then get another attack coach in might be an idea, but we'll have to wait and see what they do on that front. But yeah, look, Leon's definitely got things going in a better direction. But I guess so. It's a bit like when we've talked about some other teams where we've looked at them and gone, look, if they didn't have so much talent, we wouldn't be so upset about them. And that's one of the things that we're talking about here with the Blues. That if they didn't have the talent, we'd be quite happy with how they're playing and how they were going. But we look at that back line and go, when you've got players like Rico Iwani, obviously in there, wingers like Talia, and you've got Zan Sullivan, Caleb Clark, Emoni Nara, and AJ Lamb. Look, there's real weapons out there in that back three that we just didn't really see play much, which was what's the disappointing thing.
And one name you missed out there was Ratomavuki Netkins as well, who didn't see a lot of game time for the Blues last year, but we know that he's one player that they really made a big play to actually get, and they were really they trumpeted that play. So I'd expect to see him with a bit of game time. All those players that you mentioned, of course, a lot of outside talent, but we've also seen Rico Iwani on the weekend play very well in what, in my opinion, is his rightful position back on that wing, Paul. So all of a sudden you're going to take him again back into that midfield, and that's my issue in terms of with the Blues. They've got all these brilliant outside backs, but there's just no midfield at the moment. And if I was the likes of Leon McDonald, that's an area I'd be looking at just to get some IQ in there. Listen, there'll be a definite lift in that area with Beauden Barrett coming into the side. I think he'll give you that IQ and that individual brilliance at first five, but you still need somebody in that second five channel who's got a really, really good passing game. It just seems to be, actually, it's probably not just an indictment on the Blues, Paul. It's probably an indictment across the whole of New Zealand rugby, that in terms of number 12, that number 12 jersey, we talk about halfbacks before, but if you think about the number 12 jersey, it's very, very light.
Absolutely, and it's funny, isn't it? We went through a period of having a lot of 12s, and now we've got a lot of 13s. But we had loads of 12s and no 13s. Now we've got loads of 13s and no 12s. But as I say, they're bringing in the highly experienced Roger Tuivasa-Sheck to do that, play that role for you to unlock defences. So we'll see how he goes with that, because he'll be playing in the centre somewhere. I think we could see RTS and Rico as your 13 combination. But you're quite right. I mean, you look at if we head down to the Chiefs, so you've got Anton Brown there, who's really a 13. Look, a lot of these guys can play 12, but they're not. It's not their primary place. They've changed Quinta Paya into a 12 from a 13. So he's been a 13 throughout his school grade levels. But you do have, Nankivell there is more a 12 than a 13. Mm-hmm. Head down to the Hurricanes, and boy, with Lamapi just leaving and also as well, there's some question marks down there. But we've seen players, obviously with Leonard Brown, you've seen players like I've gone blank, which one scrolling down so I can see the list of players, like Billy Proctor and Emmanuel Jensen and Peter Emmanuel Jensen generally play that 13 jersey. So we'll see which one of those slots in to 12 next year, because they're going to have to. You keep going south then to the Crusaders, where you've got Jack Goodhue, who's again a 13, Braden Enor a 13, and they had to bring in David Havili and change a 15 into a 12 because again, they clearly Dallas McLeod, for some reason they didn't trust him, but the other guys have got their 13s, and then you head down to the Highlanders and go, Solomon Alamalo, he's a winger. You got players like Scott Gregory, who probably is actually can play in those positions. Theo Tompkinson. There are some guys there, but those guys aren't also good Super Rugby players. They're not international level at the moment. So it's interesting. Yeah, you're right. The stocks, the cupboard isn't exactly overflowing at 12. And you're muted still, Steve.
A lot of outside backs have been converted into 12s as well. Lester Nuku has moved into that centre position. Even I think even Seal Tompkinson Seal Tompkinson at some stage may have actually been a winger. So you've actually seen a lot of guys that have converted into that midfield situation. Some obviously more successful than others.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Collins obviously heading over to the Ospreys over in Wales, but a lot of us saw Collins and Gregory as 15s. Now, whether they've been played out of position at 15 and should have been centred all along is another matter. But yes, you're right. A lot of players getting from that one. And as Thompson writes, yes, if Emmanuel Jensen can stop breaking his bones, maybe he'll be. The hope. Let's that's Thomas Emmanuel Jensen. But let's hope there that he does. That he does stay fit with that one. We'll be back at 8 p.m. By the way, folks. We've got the Driving More show this evening. We'll talk about Bledisloe Cup, Rugby Championship, and Rugby World Cup qualifiers. Probably also talk about the NPC a bit more as well in that one. If you would like to support us doing this kind of stuff, head over to patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio. We've had a number of 3 supporter specials came out last week, and I'll try and bring another one out on Thursday this week. So do head over there. It's look, you can do it for as little as $1 a month, and it's is much needed so that we can buy the kind of tech so we can bring this stuff to you. We do have some new cameras on the way, folks. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we will have some better pictures than we've got at the moment from Stephen and I. Now those are the kind of the kind of the major talking points. But you put something in our live chat that was interesting about Kelso boys.
Yeah, Kelston boys. They've had a pretty successful sort of year in Auckland secondary schools rugby. I think they may have only been beaten once this year, or they may not have beaten at all, but they've certainly been looking the team to beat in Auckland secondary schools rugby. And I'm just saying, what a bit of a shame it is that COVID has basically had a bit of a say, because as you know, with secondary school cycles, they are really yearly things, and not often you actually see the same team come back in the following year. So I feel for that, but I'll do a little bit of see if I can do a bit of a follow up and get some information just to see what is going to happen with secondary school rugby. Is it going to be pretty much hit on the head for the rest of the year, or like the NPC, are they going to delay it and maybe at least try and get some finals played before the year rounds out?
Yeah, I think what we'll find is that's going to be province by province. I don't think there'll be a national decision on that. I mean, looking at Bay of Plenty, they made a big announcement today saying that the under 11 to under 13 grades had been cancelled, but that the junior rugby would have semi-finals and finals on the 18th and 25th of September. So some stuff will be going ahead. Some of it's been cancelled. Secondary school girls are looking into still hasn't quite been determined yet as to what will happen there, and that the Farmlands Cooperative Baywide Premier Men's Club finals will be played on Saturday, the 18th. So I might see about whether I can get down and look at those finals. I'll see what they're up to, and whether they want anyone around, but probably they might not on that one. So so that gives you an idea. So some rugby, some things have unfortunately had to be cancelled, but some things are going on. I'm a bit surprised that club finals hadn't already been out of the way. I thought we pretty much finished those by now, but because you try and tie those up before the NPC kicks off normally, but looks like some of the stuff for the Bay is still running, which I say a bit of a surprise there with that one. Do join us again at 8 p.m. this evening, folks. Stephen, thanks for joining me for a little wind down after the day of work, and get yourself a beer, have some dinner, and maybe we'll see you at 8 o'clock as well.
Cheers. Yeah, for sure, Paul. And just for Robert, Paul, mate, I will definitely go out. You told me to harden up, so I'll get out there tomorrow and do it, mate. Rain, hail, or shine.
Oh, dear me, promises. We'll wait and see.